The word apocalypse comes from the Greek word apokalypsis, which means an uncovering or to take the cover off. One of the many apocalyptic moments for me this past year was seeing a corporate donut chain announce multiple times the offer of free donuts every day for the year to anyone who would simply submit to the pandemic penetration. And this coming on the heels of the World Obesity Federation study concluding global COVID-19 death rates were more than 10 times higher in countries where more than half the adults were overweight or obese, compared to countries where fewer than half were overweight or obese. The report analyzed mortality data from Johns Hopkins University and the WHO Global Health Observatory data on obesity. According to a report from the Harvard School of Public Health, more than 70% of Americans ages 20 and over are either overweight or obese. We know this is nothing new. To say we were unhealthy before any of this even began would be a gross understatement. The hive mind is strong right now, but shifting. The nightmare of manipulation rolls on as the establishment continues to unceasingly parrot the failing and dead horse narrative of double, triple, even quadruple penetrations, dangling the, quote, return to normal carrot. As I've seen firsthand, for some, the maddening feeling of being duped is starting to set in, as many simply did their part. As the talking heads continue to imply, the remaining unpenetrated citizenry are not nearly as discerning as they are just shamefully negligent, the band continues to play on, while the unsinkable Titanic heads to her final destination. The sobering reality that we now live in a culture where your worldview can quite literally dictate the condition of your physical health has begun to set in. Here's the thing though, even if that whole stick 'em up thing was 100% effective, it still only returns us to a normal where more than 7 out of 10 US adults are unhealthy to begin with. Where's that conversation in this culture? Dr. Tim Lobstein, the Obesity Federation Report's author, had this to say, and I quote, "We were shocked to see such a high correlation between a country's proportion of overweight adults and its deaths from COVID-19. We now know that an overweight population is the next pandemic waiting to happen," end quote. You know, wouldn't a deeper thought to be having right now be, why were we so unhealthy to begin with? You know, pre-pandemic, every time we'd gone to the grocery, the shelves were full. Fast food drive-thrus were always open with a quick meal. Gas station pumps always had gas, always water at the faucet, always electric at the plug, always a blinking cursor on that blank Google search bar. But the collective belief in modern consumptive patterns and the lives built upon it are being fundamentally shaken. Could it be the supply disruptions are just pointing us in a more truthful direction? And what if the obesity epidemic is not really the root problem, but just a symptom of something much larger that's just off? We can sense it. Something's very, very wrong just under the surface. What if the root problem in this culture is a collective belief in the lie of limitlessness? It's this lie that teaches us that to disconnect and to remain disconnected in the pursuit of more is not only best, but that it's just baseline normal behavior. Wendell Berry, in his 2008 essay, Faustian Economics, Hell Hath No Limits, says this, and I quote, "This credo of limitlessness clearly implies a principled wish not only for limitless possessions, but also for limitless knowledge, limitless science, limitless technology, and limitless progress. And necessarily, it must lead to limitless violence, waste, war, and destruction. End quote. Could it be that to actually embrace true connection, it requires that we admit and live within limits? Not just our prepackaged surface level ideologies, but we humbly admit we are limited creatures with a poorness, a vulnerability, and a neediness to be connected to God, to be connected to each other, and to be connected to the ground. Maybe the better question to ask right now then is, how do we make true connection surrounded by a culture that is not only obsessed with more, but that looks down on and even shames those who dare to question and live outside of this absurdity? With God, all things are possible. But if I want a donut, I'll go ahead and pay 79 cents.